number one reason that people get stuck, why they don't lose weight, is because they're living a very stressed life. If we can't get cortisol under control, we're gonna have a weight loss problem. What can you do supplement-wise? First, cortisol. Let's talk about this for a hot moment. Cortisol is the hormone that is meant to make you move. So let's go back to that primal lens that we keep looking at everything from. And if you look at when cortisol kicked in the hunter and gatherer days, it gave you this supercharge of energy so you could move and run away from a tiger. This is super important. That's survival. Cortisol was meant to help you survive so you didn't get eaten by a wild animal, but it did that by making you move. So if you don't use cortisol in the way that it was designed to be made or to be used, then it gets stored. So really interesting study. That was a 1994 study. I know it's a little outdated, but it's the one we could find the most of, and it was in Obesity Journal, and it found that there was a correlation between high cortisol levels and weight gain, specifically around the belly in women. So when we are struggling to lose weight, the first thing I want you to think about is how much cortisol is running through your system every single day. Meaning that if you have a really high stressed life, then you're going to make more cortisol, which is ultimately going to turn into fat, especially if you don't move. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So what's interesting is that we also see that cortisol, when it comes in, it actually stimulates the release of another hormone, and that is leptin. Now, leptin is technically the fat-burning hormone, but it is also the hormone that makes you hungry. So when you have a chronic level of cortisol over time, now I'm not talking about acute cortisol surges. I'm not talking about like a stressful day or a stressful couple days. I'm talking about a stressful life, a stressful month, that when it's a consistent stress, this leptin pours into your system and tells you to eat. This is what we call stress eating. But when leptin comes in, it also inhibits another hormone called ghrelin. And ghrelin is the hormone that tells you that you're full and that you should stop eating. So when we have a chronically stressed life, what we're doing is we're saturating our body with cortisol, we're increasing our hunger, and we're decreasing our brain's ability to perceive that we're full. Satiated is the word that we use. So it's not just one hormone that's making the problem, it's creating a cascade of hormones. The other one that I'm going to throw in there is insulin, because we've talked about this so much in my books and a lot here on YouTube, where insulin is, you become more insulin resistant when cortisol is surging through your body. So it's the most profound thing, honestly, that I have seen with putting out books on fasting out into the world is that the number one reason that people get stuck with their fasting lifestyle, why they don't lose weight, is because they're living a very stressed life. And I can give you all the great wisdom on how to build a fasting lifestyle, but if we can't get cortisol under control, we're gonna have a weight loss problem. The first one, take a magnesium supplement. Now, there was a 2016 national report in the National Institute of Health, a publication that found, check this out, found that 48% of Americans are magnesium deficient. This is a massive challenge, and I think before I go into what type of magnesium you want, I want to talk about how you don't get a deficiency. Magnesium deficiencies are coming from two reasons. One, a high-stress life, which is why I'm talking about it in this video. The more stress you have, the more magnesium requirements you're going to have. And that stress could be emotional stress, that could be physical stress, that could be toxic stress. There's a lot of different versions of stress. But if you know you're on that constant or hamster wheel, or you're constantly running behind the eight ball, you're like constantly having to run from thing to thing to thing and you're not resting, what I want you to realize is you may be low in magnesium. And then it becomes a vicious cycle because you're low in magnesium. And there was actually a really interesting study. This was a 2020 study done out of nutrients that noted that a depleted magnesium caused a vicious stress cycle. It made for more cortisol. So magnesium goes down and then cortisol goes up. And then cortisol goes up, causing your magnesium levels to go down, and now we have a problem. So if you're living a high stress life, we definitely want to add that magnesium in. I'll talk about that in a minute. So stress depletes magnesium. The second thing that depletes magnesium is getting food from conventional farms. So I've talked about this a lot, how I am such a fan of us getting these nutrients from food. But there's a challenge with us getting really good nutrients from food, and that is called what is the soil in which that food is grown in. If that soil is heavily cropped, heavily sprayed, in a more conventional style, it's probably depleted of magnesium. If that food is actually grown in a regenerative farm where there's good bacteria and there's rich soil and there's a diverse ecosystem growing within that farm, then you probably have more nutrients like magnesium in it. So where you're getting your food from really makes a difference. But when we go back to this number of 48% of Americans are magnesium deficient, I just want to point out that are 48% of Americans completely stressed out? That's probably an accurate statement. I don't have that exact number, but my hunch says 48% of Americans are definitely running a high stress life. And are 48% of Americans, are they eating from conventional farms, or are they eating a lot of fast food? Are they eating food from nutrient depleted soils? Probably. So that becomes the deadly combo. The high stress with not bringing it in through diet or not eating from getting food from a quality farm. Now we're going to see those two go down, right? And now the vicious cycle gets even worse. What can you do supplement-wise? So I will tell you, for me, I like a good complete magnesium. I do a good dose of magnesium every night. The research that I found is that 400 milligrams a day, preferably before bed, will really help not only bring those cortisol levels down so you can sleep, but will also relax you and just kind of chill you out so you can go to sleep. Now, I personally do more than that. I do like 800 milligrams, just seems to work well for me. And the research says that the two types of magnesium you want to focus on is magnesium glycinate and magnesium citrate. Now, there's two brands I like. I'll put links in here. These are the ones I use. One is Qualia. Their magnesium has a complete magnesium profile in it. And let's see, just so you can see the dosage, it's 350 milligrams for 2 capsules. So you would take like 3 capsules of this before you go to bed at night. By the way, those of you who are constipated, magnesium will relax your gut so that you can have a morning bowel movement. Just a side note, if you take too much magnesium, you might notice that you have too loose of bowels, so you might have to play with that dosage. The other magnesium that I love is Bio-Optimizers, and I use them a lot. I didn't have an extra bottle here to show you, but I'll leave links. Both of them are great. I don't have a preference. I'm a huge I like to cycle my supplements, so 1 month I'll use Qualia, the next month I'll use Bio-Optimizers. But keep in mind, if you start getting really loose stools, you might back down on the magnesium. And it's really the magnesium glycinate that tends to cause more GI problems. So again, get to know your magnesium, see what works. Those are the two that work for me. The second one, kava tea. So drink kava tea at night. You could do kava tea and some magnesium. I've been playing, by the way, those of you who don't drink alcohol, I've been playing with some of those adaptogen drinks. I don't have any affiliation with any of them. I just play with the ones that have a lot of magnesium and a lot of potassium in it. So one of the beautiful things that's come from this moment where people are not drinking as much alcohol is that people are looking for other herbs and nutrients to calm them. So, and sometimes those drinks are really tasty and I'll just pour them in like a wine glass and drink it instead of wine. But the fun thing about kava, I mentioned this on another video, is that kava will increase GABA. And GABA calms us. So remember, now let me kind of put a profile together here. For women over 35, you are losing progesterone. When you lose progesterone, you lose GABA. Progesterone needs magnesium. So progesterone after 35 starts to go down. You don't have as much GABA, you're more anxious, you're struggling to sleep, you're not burning fat at night, you're making too much cortisol, and now all of a sudden you're gaining weight for no particular reason as you go through the perimenopausal experience. So when I'm looking at these different pieces of advice I'm giving you, they could also click together. So we could bring our magnesium in to help support progesterone. We're going to help support progesterone production, which is going to bring GABA, and GABA is going to calm you. So magnesium can help that way. We also know magnesium can help by bringing down cortisol levels. Phenomenal. Now with kava, and why I wanted to kind of backtrack through that, is that with kava, kava is also known to stimulate GABA. So have some magnesium with some kava tea, and now all of a sudden you're putting yourself in this relaxed state. Now, study-wise, research-wise, there's a couple interesting ones to point out that you will probably be interested in. So a 2001 study in human psychopharmacology found that they gave kava to people who had insomnia, and they saw that it dramatically improved their sleep quality, and it decreased cortisol levels and lowered self-reported stress. So remember, if you're stressed out and you go into sleep, all that cortisol, it's going to shut down fat burning, and it's going to make it so that you actually start gaining weight. So kava tea can be amazing for just that whole bedtime routine. There was another 2020 study that was done in cancer prevention research that found a single week of kava supplementation lowered both plasma and urinary cortisol, and it decreased stress in adults. And that was after a daily dose of kava every single day for a week. So super quick results. Third thing that you can do.
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on the link below and enjoy.
Is cutting out artificial sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners like aspartame, they're not only are they obesogens, and those of you who have read Eat Like a Girl, I put a whole list of obesogens in there, chemicals that make you fat. So if you don't have that book, you can go get that book. But what's interesting about aspartame is it's an obesogen. It's an endocrine disruptor, but it's in diet drinks. So we are drinking all these diet drinks thinking we're like gonna lose weight. But diet drinks don't make you lose weight. They actually reprogram your cells and make it so that you start gaining weight because they're an obesogen. But also, according to a 2012 study, aspartame increases cortisol production. So now we've got this whole cascade of hormonal changes that are happening from one diet drink that you're thinking is actually making you lose weight, but hormonally it's doing the opposite. There was also a 2023 review in a journal called Curious that said that consuming artificial sweeteners increases your blood cortisol levels and they cause oxidative stress. Okay, we've talked about, if you've watched my videos, and those of you that are watching them consecutively as they come out, thank you. I really appreciate it. And what I'll tell you is oxidative stress is where your cells are starting to break down. And they're breaking down and turning into zombie cells. Okay, what are zombie cells? Zombie cells are cells that are aging quickly. Or this oxidative stress is breaking down and your cells and turning them into cancer cells. So this is why we like a diet rich in antioxidants. But according to this study, this 2023 study, is that not only are you raising cortisol with these artificial sweeteners, but you're accelerating the oxidative stress, which means you're accelerating aging and you're accelerating cancer growth. So let's get off these artificial sweeteners. Let's vote with our dollars. So what are your alternatives? And I think the biggest thing that I always tell, my favorite is a monk fruit. That's a good one. We've talked about it. I did a whole video on sweeteners. I'm sure my team will put the link here for you. I personally love monk fruit. I think it's a great one. Erythritol, it's another really good one. It can have a little bit of a artificial sweet taste. So some people I found love it, some people don't. And then stevia. And stevia is quite controversial. So some people love it, some people don't. Some people it spikes their glucose, some people it doesn't. Some people it spikes insulin, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to be your own N of one on those three sweeteners.
So on the next video, it's called Do This Before You Sleep to Avoid Belly Fat. And there's habits you want to do the night before, and there's habits you want to do in the morning, and all of those make a big difference. Make sure your room is cool. If our mattress is cool, if the room is cool, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. This is a little bit like cold plunges.